right, everybody, welcome. Testing, testing, yes. Still a bit early, but I see some people are joining in already. We got Alain from Canada. Carlos, who is a regular. Arizona, Texas. USA represent as always. Australia. That's nice, mate. Nice of you. And Stefan from Germany. He's a regular as well, if I'm not mistaken. Guten Abend. Ooh, some more Australia. Jasmine from Queensland. Excuse me. Those who checked out the previous session about spicing up the E-shaped bars will see there is some kind of a pattern. So for that, I try not to completely copy the previous session. There is new stuff in there. There's some new ideas. There's a bit on technique as well. Toronto, Oxford, UK, from Greece, Kalinichta, yes. Canada, that could be good evening or bonsoir. Oui, bien sûr. Still a couple of minutes. So we can do a little sound check. Is the guitar coming through? Is it sounding well? Is it too quiet or not? All right. Marcus, guten Abend. Thanks, Mami and Alain. I'll drop the link to the slides here once again, so you can follow there. I will be showing all the shapes on the screen, of course. Once again, I try to do that as big as possible. If you have issues following that, you can follow along with the slides. I just pasted the link once again. It's a shared Google Drive document. So if I spot any mistakes or I want to add some things, I can share it and it will be updated in real time for you. Southern Arizona, welcome. More from Germany. Welcome. Willkommen. Aus diesen Session. Good morning, Australia. Good evening from Western Europe. Even from Scotland. Durango, CO, that's Colorado, I think. I don't know all the states, I'm sorry. Just a few more minutes, and at 5:30 sharp we will start. Yeah, Colorado, I guessed it right. Excellent. Oh, California. Some more Colorado. Excellent. The sound is quite low. I'm sure I will be speaking up at this volume, playing like this. If that is still too silent for all of you, let me know. Otherwise, Martin, you might have to turn it up a little. Belfast. Good evening, Belfast. Let's see if I can get this microphone like this. Yes. Yeah, Carlos, I'm doing well. Thanks a lot. And let's get started, shall we? So, guys, welcome to the session about A-shaped bars. Last time we checked out what we can do with an E-shaped bar, and let's be a bit creative with that shape, spice it up a little. And today I will do that. Literally, I will add the spice to your A-shaped bars. You will see that. And let's not delay and get right into it. So, why would this session be useful for you? Because you'll learn new chords just by lifting a finger and putting it somewhere else, or a few fingers, not just one. But most of all, you will be able to express yourself more and bring some texture or even melody in parts that would be regular major or minor chords otherwise. And we did that for the E-shape bars. Now I will show you how, starting from the A-shape major and minor shapes, how you can get along from there. It doesn't matter if you are already quite fluent in those shapes or not. For those who have still some difficulties, keep practicing. It is kind of a milestone to reach if you get fluent in these shapes, but the E shape and the A shape combined will open up so many doors for you. And as you'll see, even songs that are just in plain major and minor chords can be spiced up to a lot more things, and you can add expression in different ways if you want to. Practicing all this will also train your strength, train the strength and flexibility of your fingers, and a lot of finger independence. And that will help you to get better at what we are practicing here today. So it's kind of a circle. So I will be jumping from major shape to minor shape today because some of the minor tricks are actually easier than the major tricks, and you will see that right away. And if you would see a traditional A-shaped bar that you can see on the screen right now, left one is for the lefties, right one is for the right-handed people, probably most of you. You see there is a top note there that you could play if you can do it, but it is for most people kind of hard thing to do, because if you would play that, most of the people will mute. Don't know if you can hear that. Most people will mute the upper string, and it is, oh, it's working for me now. It is not mandatory. Theoretically it's there and you should know that it's there, but it's not mandatory because it can be a challenge. First of all, you have to put one finger down, your index finger, and make sure it happens, and it has to go down all the way. And if you can, you have to mute that bottom string, bottom E string. You don't play it, try to avoid it, or especially muting when you're doing a lot of powerful strumming. And then there's a ring finger that has to do a little mini bar of 3 notes. So I'm not going to explain how an A-shaped major bar works, but the challenge is, of course, that top string often gets muted like that. Don't worry about that. You know that dropping it, not playing it, it being muted is just as well correct. But just remember that this note, for a D-shaped bar, for example, when you're playing a D major, this top E note is still there. Just don't forget. So if you still have some issues with that A shape, check out Justin's website. Use the link that is in the slides. It's very faint. Okay, let's see if I can make them somewhat bigger then. That should be happening on the fly. And I can move my camera just a bit. So yeah, the text is probably a bit faint, but should be updated right that. So if you got some issues with that, check out Justin's website. Look for A-shaped bars and brush up on your bar technique. The minor ones are actually easier to play. They look like the E-shaped major ones, but if you would play a D minor, so root note on the A string, D note, you play all the way through to the top. So that's a refresher on the major and minor chords. I hope you're kind of fluid with those because we'll be using them. If you aren't, then you're here to explore what these shapes have to offer you in the future. The first one is the most obvious one, and that's why I step up from a minor chord here, and that's level 1 spice. That's why there's one little pepper on top of that screen, and it is made also, like in the previous session, by lifting one finger. Imagine making a D minor chord. You should be able to see it like that. D minor chord means using this shape. As all the chords today, we'll have root on the A string. Fifth fret is the D note, and I will be basing most of the exercises today on that note. If you would lift your pinky, just your pinky, you get a minor 7 chord. So a regular minor sounds like that, and then a regular minor 7 sounds like that. So minor and minor 7. There's a subtle difference there, especially if you play all the strings. It might not always be that apparent, but If you play only a few strings, you'll hear it a lot better. And especially, of course, if you start to finger pick. Going from the regular minor to the minor 7 is, remember, it's just lifting one finger, pinky finger. And that sounds a whole lot different. That's because now you can isolate the difference on that one string. That is the actual difference we're playing here, lifting the finger, the pinky finger, or not. So as soon as you encounter a song that featured a minor chord, you know that you can actually interchange it with a minor 7. By that I mean we just did a D7 chord. Imagine you have a pretty bland chord progression going on, just D minor. You can spice it up by interchanging that D minor with a D minor 7. I see that somebody has issues with the diagrams. Well, there is no relation to the fingers here. I'm not going to teach how you form a minor chord. That's not what this session is for. But to briefly recap, if you would check out my fingers, so you have the index finger, it's going all the way across on that first fret. So don't be fooled by that thick bar, because it could be any shape. It could be on the first fret as well, and then we're doing a B flat minor, just as the same, but for the sake of the examples, we're going for D. And the numbers that are noted there are the positions of the note on the scale. 1 is the root note, the first note. You have 5, you have 7, and you have an M3, that's minor third. You have the third one or the minor third one. And that's what makes the difference between a major and a minor one. So don't see these as fingers, see these as scale degrees. If you would play a regular minor shape, it resembles the major shape that you do major shape that you do on the E string. Remember, example, A major chord, 5th fret, root on the thick low E string. If you move that up, then you just have to lift one finger, and that's what the dot with the 7 is going. On a regular minor chord, it is right above the dot with the 5. But when you lift your pinky finger, the note of your barred finger is playing. So that's what the numbers are saying and how they relate. So, level 1 spice, lifting the finger and incorporating in your playing. Imagine a bland piece of D minor. You nearly fall asleep playing it with the band, but you could spice it up by playing 2 bars minor and 2 bars minor 7. That could be level 1. Nothing special there, but it already starts to feel a little bit different. If you could do that with all your chords, you would actually be making it a bit more complex, but in your mind, in your head, you still see I'm working around this D minor chord. It could be on the sheet in front of you on a paper, it could say D minor, but you're already mixing it up, you're splitting it up in 2 flavors, the minor and the minor 7. If you combine this with a little more expressive strumming, it brings even some more texture. Everything you do in spicing up your strumming pattern will translate even more if you add a bit of this texture. Just I called it lift your pinky, lift pinky, because that's all there is. And it doesn't matter where you do it. Imagine you have a B minor on your sheet. It's rather bland. You can spice up your strumming, but you can also spice up the chord. We'll make a B minor and a B minor 7. And I'll show you in an example how you can do that. And that's really just level 1. What you can also do is hammer the shape, something we did in the previous session as well with the E shape major. You can do this here as well. And by that I mean hammering down all the non-bar fingers. So you have your index finger, it remains on the fretboard, but you hammer down the other 3 fingers on the shape. And if you do that while strumming, the expression becomes even more dramatic. So, same old D minor chord, just that shape, but lifting up, bringing down that shape, hammering it down. And it's even a subtle difference between real hammering, just bringing it down without the extra pick, or picking everything. Hear the difference? Strum, bring it down. It's more subtle. Or strumming everything. That's still just spice 1, and imagine what you can do with that. Every possible minor chord that you can play over this neck, we did Mi minor. You can do C minor. You can use it for everything. So use each trick, combine each trick with some expressive strumming, and of course your finger picking will become a lot more melodic. For the D example. And even the hammer-on thing works for finger picking. So try to combine all these little ideas and making it more expressive. So I just went on how you can use those and mix those ideas. And the last thing I just show you is what Martin Knopfler of the Dice Trays would call claw picking. And I think I kind of stole it from him. And here I am playing a red guitar with a white pickguard and a dark fretboard. I don't think it's that much of a coincidence. And what is this claw picking? And you can see this on the picture. There is a thumb playing on the root note, and there's 2 fingers playing higher up, actually skipping a string. And I will show you right on the diagram what that means, because it might be unclear like that. But it creates a very articulate style where you play a root note with your thumb. So imagine this. I'm gonna skip this for now. Imagine your D minor shape. It would sound like that if you strum it. But if you would use the claw, you are playing the root note, that 5 on the bottom there, with your thumb. And this is where I differ with Mark Knopfler. Mark would use his first and second finger. I would recommend using your middle finger and your ring finger and not play the one that your index finger does. So you're actually using only 3 fingers to pick here. You're really plucking the strings. Let me show that to you. Really exaggerate it. I'm grabbing on with my thumb, my 3rd finger, and my middle finger. So index finger isn't doing anything, pinky isn't either. And the other 3 pluck the strings, pull them off. I recommend doing it that way so that your index finger, when you would combine it with finger picking, still has the room to play the correct string, because what you're doing here is you're playing the designated strings that you would play if you would finger pick them. Then the thumb would do the bass, the other two fingers do the other ones in the red boxes. And in this example, we go from D minor to the hammered thing, just all fives there and back down. And this is how we made Sultans of Swing. If you do the first thing from D minor to just do the hammer-on thing with just the claw combined, you're halfway there playing Sultans of Swing. Okay, that's a bit exaggerated, but yes, that's how he does it. And the dramatic effect of this claw is that you're playing fewer strings. You're not playing the full chord, but just 3 strings. And if you would switch between the regular minor and, oh no, my camera did a silly thing. If you would switch to between the regular minor and the minor 7, just doing the claw, hear the difference, how dramatic it sounds. Playing everything, not so much difference. Using the claw, the claw thing really makes the note snappy, and if you combine it with another note in your chord to make it more spicy, it really comes through well. Don't use it for everything, but it also will help you developing your Johnny Cash style of picking. But if you would do it on an open A string and you will let your thumb jump up and down, I'll show you like this. It's the same thing. Here I am using my middle finger and ring finger, only playing part of the chord. The thumb is going up and down, but I could just do the claw thing on the root note as well. It would sound like that. If you would develop that, if you're a bit into finger picking and you would develop a bit of this claw technique and use it in between your strumming, your picking, and make it to pronounce some chords and parts of chords a little more clear, it will bring a lot more expression, of course. Oh, there's a bit of spelling error there. Don't mind that. So, as I said, try to use it in random applications. In the beginning, you will have to make some kind of exercises for yourself, putting on paper, I will switch from this chord to this chord, I'll try this technique, and it will be very conscious. If you use these more and more, it will work a bit like how you learn to improvise. First, you play notes very, very consciously, but after a while, you'll develop a sequence of notes, some kind of phrasings that you will do by autopilot. You will do them on autopilot, and they become words that you can use into sentences, like I didn't really think about that. That's the first thing I do when I go into an A pentatonic minor. Just the same as these techniques. They work just the same. At first, they will look complicated and fast. So practice them slow, gradually speeding up. And they will become more and more of an automatism. And you will like some chord shapes more than the other. You will like some techniques more than the other. That's all up to you. Everybody has his own or her own style. And that's why we are here, to discover what yours will be. And there's no right or wrong there, as long as you use your ear and check out this shape, this technique, this combination, this kind of random or less random picking of notes really works for me. That's how you develop these little combinations. So I already showed you the hammer and pull idea, where you hammer down a chord shape. And this is something I do in a lot of my songs, and one of the best examples is Ain't No Sunshine. Ain't No Sunshine, I was playing it at the start of this session. And and then you go to E minor, and then D minor. That's not how I play it currently. So that's a regular E minor and D minor. You could spice this up a little, and instead of playing the open chords for the E minor and the D minor, you can shift to the bar chords, because these bar chords, they also give you some options for expressions. So imagine going up, I put my guitar bit up like this, and then to E minor. So imagine going there on the bar chords. Now let's start to use these techniques I just shown you. How about hammering down those shapes? So we had the E minor here and the D minor here. That was cool. But what if you hammer the shape? E minor. So that's an example of expression that you can bring in a regular E minor or D minor using that one. So that already sounded a bit bluesier, a bit swingier, whatever kind of vibe you want to bring. So that's one trick. Let's combine it with another trick. In this case, we combine it with the switching between the regular minor and the minor 7. So same thing, but we do the hammer-on thing, and we do the switching between minor and minor 7 at once. And it would sound something like this. So what happened there was I was hammering down the shapes, so I was keeping my index finger where it should be, but the other fingers, they were doing the hammering action. But in this case, I was hammering with a minor one. The regular song, the minor 7, the regular song just says E minor and D minor, but I decided to change them with E minor 7 and D minor 7 because, as you hear, they are interchangeable. They bring a bit of that bluesy, jazzy flavor to your song, but they actually replaced the chord there. So as soon as you read an E minor or a D minor or an A minor, whatever, you can add your 7 to that, and it's perfectly valid. You can even use the regular minor, 7, and the hammer-on thing combined. Like that. I did something random, and I combined minor, hammerings, and the minor 7. So try to combine these. If you want a more, even a more expressive version of that, there's a link in the slide deck that points to a recording of this version of the song I did on the radio, and it has some more ideas how to spice up the chord progression. It has some lead ideas as well, going down the shape as a little run. Cool. Another of my favorite examples is Englishman in New York. So if we would strum the regular chords E minor, A, and B minor, that sounds a bit like Englishman in New York. If you would pick it, and the last one, I'll lift the finger to create some kind of walking bass line. That's cool. Once again, why not spice up the B minor there? And you don't even have to finger pick everything. You can spice up just the final part to bring some texture. Because imagine going from 2 So once again, you can hammer the shape, or you can combine the minor and the minor 7th trick, and even the simpler strummed version will be spiced up and have a little groove. Or next level, you can throw in a little lead line, and what I did there was just using the notes that are in the chord. They're all safe notes. You put down your fingers, you check out which dots you're actually covering with your fingers, and if you would play them, they will all sound great, just replacing the chord. Little random run going up and down, and it already spices up your idea. It could be 2 or 3 notes, or it could be a whole run. Up to you to build up. Just use one to start with, and get to know that you're not just playing a chord there, you're playing a combination of notes, and learn to see them as things that you can interchange. And you once again use your ears. What can I throw out? What can I put back in again? So, next up, this is based off a major shape. So back to the D major one. Make sure your fingers are kind of straight like this. I used to do them way too diagonal like that. I really had to correct myself on that. But it's necessary to be able to drop that extra finger that is on the 8th fret. So we're playing a regular major, D major, and we're adding with the pinky to the work, and we're bringing it down on the B string. That's where the sus4 dot is. So if you see a chord that's noted with sus, it's the same as sus4. You will also encounter sus2 chords. So if you see a sus2 and a sus, know that sus is the same as sus4. Could be a bit harder, but it can be used to spice up the regular major A shape. If we have sus4, then I imagine it's his smaller brother, sus2, isn't that far away. And what happens here is it is on the same line as your bar, so there's actually no fingers there. You just have your middle finger and your ring finger on those dots, and that one can be used too. Imagine just shifting between the minor one and lifting your middle finger. So imagine, once again, you see a minor chord, you can interchange it with a sus2. You can interchange it with a sus4. Remember the D chord, open D chord, that you can spice up with sus2 and sus4. It's all a D chord. Your paper says it's a D chord, but you can use sus4, sus2, regular D. Mix them all together, all in a random fashion, and it all works. Same here for bar chords, of course, because it's still chords. Bar chords, open chords, the mechanics behind them is the same. When you learn open chords, you don't see this pattern. You see all different kind of shapes, and you have to learn a new shape for every chord. But bar chords, you have to learn one shape. It is a bit harder than the open chords, but they give you a lot of chords. Move up the shape, got a lot of chords. Lift a finger, got a new chord, equal times the amount of positions you can put it. Bring down the finger, put it down somewhere else. Yet another set of combinations. And your chord book will explode. Your chord book will explode if you learn the chord every 1 week or 2 weeks when you're playing open chords. Now it will explode. So I showed you how to make a D minor and the D sus2, and it's just lifting, that's just minor sus2, lifting that one finger. That's all there is to it. So if you would take it to spice level 2, what am I playing here? I'm playing D minor 7, so that's a regular minor, but we lift our pinky. And we could play the D sus4. That's the second one. We bring down that pinky on the 8th fret. And then we could lift everything. So the only change that happens here is on that second string, on that B string. The shape remains the same. But it's two fingers doing the work. Our middle finger and our pinky, they are doing the job. Try to combine these, especially when you're finger picking. If you see a regular D minor, and it sounds so complicated, and if you listen to it and you have to figure it out, where are all these notes, always start with a shape and see if they used some kind of trick like I'm teaching you, that in most cases they're holding on to the same chord and making some variations. So in this case, we're going from D minor 7 to sus4, and that's just bringing down one pinky. And then lifting both pinky and middle finger. It could take some practice, and even I start to feel this when I do this for a while. But it will strengthen up your middle finger and your pinky a lot. This one is actually a very good exercise to get good finger independence, which will serve you on a million things. But especially for this one, you hear that you'll have a lot of texture in your strumming, and especially your finger picking. If you are looking for ideas for melodies, if you combine three shapes like this, and you start finger picking some random combinations, some very nice melodies will emerge. By chance, just try to remember them. And actually the order, if you don't exactly memorize them, it isn't that important. As long as you know, I'm working around this D minor shape. You don't have to remember all of the names of the chords if you have to. The most important thing is that, oh, I'm working around this D minor. D minor is home, and all the rest is built upon that. Oh, my text is getting a little dodgy. I see what's happening here. I had to import my slide deck because the StreamYard wasn't playing my slide deck in an integrated fashion very well, and that's why the text is a bit thin. Sorry for that. So if you want to get spicy, this is spicy level 3. This is where we take this minor shape once again, and we take our pinky, we lift it, but we put it back down on the top string. Now that's getting spicy. 3 little peppers for you there. It's already starting to sound very jazzy. So that's still a regular D minor 7 or a D minor. Pinky is without a job, so we put it down on the top string. So now I was combining minor 7 and then this minor 13 shape. And I'm playing only the top strings to exaggerate the effect. I could play everything. And it's there, it's kind of faint, but just doing those top strings really emphasizes the jazz spice there. So we're doing this trick. Remember I showed you this claw thing. The claw thing puts even more emphasis on it. So imagine strumming and mixing together. So I'm doing the as a claw, but all the rest is strumming, and then the claw. So once again, 3 shapes: minor, minor 7, lifting the pinky, bringing down that pinky on the 7th fret of the top string. That's a bit of spice. Doing the claw really emphasizes it. It's trying to bring a message across. So once again, I am changing between 3 shapes, and I'm combining it with this claw thing. But of course, you can finger picking in a regular fashion as well. Don't forget about it. I'm just doing random things here. And you think, oh, that sounds complicated, sounds cool. I'm doing random things here. Don't forget to bring expression in your playing as well. I cannot keep myself of doing that, using that claw or using just a few strings to emphasize the difference. It is really what brings the texture. It's a combination of all these things. Just don't try to even yourself out too much. This is what spices up a rhythmic part. I wasn't doing any lead. I was just vamping on this one D minor chord. This D minor was my home, but I did a lot of fun things in that home. So, if you got the taste for the more advanced stuff, in that case 4 peppers I need to drink, there is more. There's always more. I showed you the basic and the more advanced stuff, and this might look very daunting on your screen now, but these blue dots are actually the spaces where our pinky can go freely and still sound great. And we're still starting off that minor and minor 7 combination. Alfio said on a minor 7, it's difficult to get the 7th degree note to sound right. So it can be tricky. It takes a bit of practice, but this is how you learn how to try some combinations with your index finger. Perhaps putting it a little bit lower, a little bit higher, rotating it just a bit, whether you put it right behind the fret or not. It can be hard to make it sound clear, but don't over focus. Sometimes it will sound just a bit more faint than the others, or even a bit muffled, just as long as not all of those notes are muffled. Just don't over focus and make it halt your progress if you only practice until every single stroke is pure and sounding well and not being muffled or muted. Because while doing these exercises and these ideas, you're training your fingers, your strength a lot. If you would be doing all these things I'm showing you, you start to feel it, and even I start to feel them right now. As a note, keep mind of your posture and mind the pressure you're bringing down with your fingers. Don't press them down too hard. If your frets are pretty high, you will push your note sharp. If they're not, and you keep doing this, you create a bad habit of putting too much force on them. You will get fatigue in your hands easier. You might get some issues with muscles and your posture. While playing guitar, just not only this, but practicing songs and techniques, always be wary of the pressure you apply to your guitar, to your strings on your neck. And sometimes you'll have to do the reverse exercise. Try to play something with the lightest touch possible and see what the point is where your strings where your notes start to fumble. where it starts to get muted. And I'm just putting my fingers down very lightly now. I could press real hard or very lightly, and at a certain point they will start to sound muffled. And you'll have to find the range of the force you have to apply, and make sure that you can apply the lightest amount of pressure possible. And practice that now and then. Check that. Am I, when I'm playing, when you're playing some regular chords, open chords, but especially bar chords, how hard am I pressing down? Am I making this bar chord really hard, and you're still having issues with your thumbs? They feel like they're burning after just doing a couple of strokes, and you're already 2 months, 3 months in playing bar chords. Then you might be applying too much force. Okay, back to the minor 7 and the 4 peppers. Probably the 4 chili peppers. Oh, lame joke. What I'm showing here is that the blue dot could be the pinky roadmap. So imagine the minor 7. So imagine a minor 7 and then a pinky going on all those frets. Ooh. All those blue dots are valid positions to do something fun. And if you do something random with it, it could sound like. So I was doing some random stuff, starting from that minor 7, but putting my pinky in one of the blue dots. That's all I did. And if you would translate that to diagrams like that to see which of each frets I'm playing on each string, it would look like something like that. And the two last ones, they stop being minors, and they are D7, dominant D7 chords. So I'm already shifting in a different kind of flavor there, but it's still, in my head, it's still working around this D minor. I'm still using that D minor shape. And for the claw thing, I got a question to show it more. For me, it looks like this. So in the bottom of the presentation, I will include a link to a video where Knopfler shows a bit of this claw technique. But you have to remember, he uses these fingers. He uses thumb, index finger, and middle finger. My advice would be to use your thumb and your middle finger and ring finger. I'm going to briefly go back to the one with and it will look like this. Thumb for the bottom one. The index finger would play the one that is not in the red bracket here, and then middle finger and ring finger for the top two. So index finger, putting it down here, it won't be doing anything. Pinky just as well. And then you see that the strings that aren't played are actually the fingers I'm keeping down here, because all the fingers would have their job if you would go from claw to some kind of finger picking idea. You can claw for the emphasis, but as soon as you want to go into finger picking, you will need your index finger to play that third string, to play the ones in between the red brackets. So that's why I would suggest and recommend to not go the Knopfler style, but shift them and play the claw like that. You can, of course, play an idea. I am not your mother, I am not the law. You could imagine that the bracket is just the bottom 3 strings, and then you could do the Knopfler style. Then you could do thumb, index finger, and middle finger. So bit of a same kind of idea that we did with the major shape, adding one pinky. Who is Knopfler? Mark Knopfler is the singer and lead guitarist of the Dire Straits, and he uses these kinds of ideas a lot. That's cool, Jason. He uses that claw to do that Sultans of Swing idea. That's how he does it. So, 7 chord looks kind of like the major chord, and you add, not as in the previous example, that 8th fret on the B string, but all the way on the top string. So you can imagine that you can also combine that with other things. You notice that creating these two bars, one with your index finger, one with your ring finger, gives you a lot less mobility than the minor shape, and that's why I like to show you some of the minor ideas, because the major ones gives you less to work with. So you have to work with this. Still, the pinky is doing all the work. In this session, in the previous session, if you would check the recording of the E-shaped bar, same idea there. Pinky lifts, comes down in other places, creates all different kind of textures and chords, and this is the same thing. So after this session, grab these slides. I will paste them again here for those who missed it, because all the shapes are in there for you to try again. So there you are. And an idea could be to combine the regular major shape and the D-sus4 ID that I showed you earlier with the 8th fret on the B string, and then the new shape I just shown you, and that was a D7. So once again, we're combining sus, major, and dominant 7 here. What I did there, combined three shapes, the ones you see here. I did a bit of claw, I did a bit of single strings to emphasize, and you notice the melodic quality, and you might have guessed that as soon as you learn to drop out a bit of the rigid strumming pattern, it will also help you in creating some more expressive patterns. So I guess it could be useful to do a session on non-regular strumming patterns someday later. So far we didn't check any lead ideas, but I always think that this major shape, although it kind of locks us in to make new shapes, it gives us a good landing platform or launching platform for some automatic lead ideas, like this one here. It usually comes to me in an automatic fashion, so I really had to check every note when tapping this out. And what I'm doing here is, at a certain point in a regular D strum, I could replace a section of that with a little lead idea that could look like that. I'm doing some random stuff here, but the idea is that you use the notes in the tab. So I'm playing a D chord, and with this ring finger, so check, I was doing a bad technique. Look at my fingers, it's kind of a diagonal one. Let's play it properly. You see, I still have to correct myself now and then. D major, and this ring finger, it will slide into that 7th fret. That's how I started. But it is already on that 7th fret. I stay within that major shape. That's why I said learn to see which dots you're actually making on your guitar, because those are the ones you can safely use. When you start to improvise, know that these chord tones, the dots, also the ones that you're not playing, like the one on your index finger that is barring, it will sound okay because you checked that out earlier when we're hammering that sound. So if I would switch right in between major to the little lead idea, you can combine these notes, and I will show them on the diagram right away, that whatever kind of idea you can imagine with the notes that are in that pattern, they will all sound good. Just using a random combination of the notes that I'm showing here. Same idea here. Sorry for that major lead typo there. You're in that D major shape, and you can use the mini bar of those 2 5s on the middle strings. You can even use the bottom one as well, but depends on what you want to do. And you can combine that in a little lead idea. I just put down a random tab there of something I could do. So I'm in a D, and right in the middle I'm switching to something like that. And you have to keep the rhythm, of course. You have to make sure that you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1. As soon as you can keep that counting going, and you don't have to do that consciously, but when you're playing along with a drum track or something like that, it will come more naturally. But it's all just to show you that this example and the previous example is just one small part of that chord shape, and if you use that in between, you can also use that. It doesn't have to be rocket science. It don't have to be these slash kind of difficult or expressive major band stuff. Just some little notes, a few, can spice up your ideas, just like I shown you in the Englishman in New York thing. I just remain in this. It's all in that B minor. I'm just going down in that shape. You can do that as well in any other major shape. And I always thought that the 2 middle strings lend themselves best to do these kind of tricks. That's something I do a lot as well, this second pattern, where the barred finger, it stays on the frets, but I'm only playing the middle 2. But the ring finger is hammering on the 7. In essence, it's the same idea as just playing a different shape and only a few of the strings to emphasize the idea. The technique, how you do it, that's just different. So those are the dots that I was using. So within this major shape, I'm just using the blue dots to create a little lead melody. So, closing thoughts here. Experiment with all these combinations. Go through the document again. Experiment with all these ideas that I've shown you. Check out the recording again. And randomize. Check out which chord shapes are for me the easiest to start with. Some will be easier, and it's all personal. Which expressive ideas work well for me? Is that the claw thing? Is it finger picking? Is it only playing several strings, a selection of strings? It could be that using only 2 strings but making uh, picking something random far apart string wise could bring out real cool intervals, feel great distances between notes, and especially know which chord you're working around. Don't memorize all these chord names that you've seen in the presentation, but know which one you are working around. In this case, it was almost exclusively this D minor, but see the dots in your head that you know those are safe dots. This is where my pinky can go. This is a finger I can lift. And this is how you can create little ideas of 2 or 3 shapes and combining them random fashion or something pre-study, a word that you can phrase together with other words to some kind of sentence. In this case, a melodic, a rhythmic pattern. So, don't worry, Westy. Don't worry. It's all cool that you didn't get the pattern at first. There is more. Um, we ran out of time for this session, but if you check out the document, there's some more for you to explore, and it is 5 peppers of spice. And this is, we go in triad territory here, and this is where we jump from this D major, for example, and we slide up and we bar the 7 and top strings, and we're doing some fun things there. So that's for you to discover. That's the extra material in the slide deck. So I will briefly check if there is some questions here. I think I checked most of the questions already. If there are any more questions, check out the community of Chords. For each of these sessions, we have a thread on our Justin Guitar community. That's community.justinguitar.com. If you don't have an account yet on the website, please do so. Then you have access to this community. You can come and check all topics there. A lot more than just the live clubs. I've put some useful links in the slide deck as well to recap on the lessons that are crucial to follow these kind of tricks that we're showing here today. Justin also has some lessons on jazzing up your blues. If you think that the ideas that you heard today that really spiced up a plain old minor chord or major chord, you thought that was fun and really starts to put some groove and some taste in some blues, or if some jazzy feelings, check out the recording of the similar session I did on the E-shaped bar chords, and check out Justin's sessions on jazzing up your blues, because that's what all these things are about. And on Mark Knopfler's his claw style, there's a cool video that I linked there as well. As said, practice, 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 Westy. Yes, that is true. These are all bite-sized ideas. Most of all, use them. Use them in real songs. Take one aspect of it, take one little idea, and use them in a song. Even if you're playing 90s dance music like Prodigy and using the claw. No good. That is actually doing the claw on an A minor and shifting between an A minor and an A minor 7. That's all there is to it. So, with that little funny tidbit, I leave you all. See you guys on the community or in the next session, which is still to be announced. I think I do one more session this year. I'm thinking of doing perhaps the non-conventional strumming ideas that I used today. So the irregular patterns to make some kind of expressive strumming. That could be a cool idea, so that you combine it with your 5 levels of spice that you checked out today. Okay, it was fun seeing you all. Try these out, use them in real songs, spice up your playing, and even if you think I'm just playing some regular chords or I'm playing some boring chords or boring songs, this one will definitely make your songs a lot more interesting. See you around. Bye-bye.